Now, when Annie Booth was diagnosed with Parkinson's, she said it felt like someone had taken the sunshine out of her.
The main symptoms are tremors, slow movement and stiffness. But for people living with a condition like that, for Annie, regular exercise has made a huge difference, as our reporter Fiona Lambden found out when she went to meet her.
So I was 47 years old when I got diagnosed with Parkinson's. It was quite a shock to me to be diagnosed with it. I'd had a period of not being able to grip very well with my left hand and my left leg. It felt like it didn't belong to me. There are some days where I can't move very well. It feels like your body's encased in concrete because it's so stiff, especially first thing in the morning. I have a loss of sense of taste and smell. I've got a left side tremor. There are a lot of physical symptoms, but for me, the biggest challenge is that one of apathy. You know, it's like when you've got a loss of dopamine in your body, it's like someone's taken the sunshine out of your brain.
But a few years ago, Annie discovered walking football. It's played at a slower pace, on smaller pitches, and there's no tackling. Originally designed to help older men socialise, but now it's proving hugely beneficial for those with Parkinson's.
"2022 was the year that changed my sporting life, really. I became someone who'd never even kicked a ball to someone who became a little bit obsessed with playing walking football. Everybody on the pitch was an experienced footballer. They played all their life, and then there was me.
And it's not just Annie. Hundreds of people with Parkinson's are now playing each week.
It's like magic, really. You have people who struggle to walk. They're either in wheelchairs or on sticks. And if you put a ball in front of them, it's almost like the brain forgets that they've got Parkinson's and they come alive and they can move better, they can move quicker and they're happier and suddenly they're part of a team again.
Caroline was diagnosed 5 years ago, aged 55, and now plays 3 times a week.
Well, when I play walking football, I don't actually feel like I've got Parkinson's because your brain is so enthusiastic about doing everything that you want to do when you're on the pitch, like pass the ball, shoot, look up, talk to your colleagues. You actually feel like you haven't got Parkinson's at all. And then I go longer without having any symptoms because you're on such a high and your body feels so alive that you actually feel like, normal isn't the right word, but you actually feel like you used to feel before you had Parkinson's.
My life is actually happier now and more fulfilling. That's a better way of putting it.
Joe was diagnosed 5 years ago, aged 60.
So Joe, you actually use the football a little bit like a walking stick.
Yeah, I found that when I have just ordinarily walking, particularly on a flat surface, I do have trouble stumbling with my left leg, but I've found that a ball is a great cueing thing and it somehow tricks the brain and I can actually walk much better kicking a football than I can ordinarily.
And that is actually easier for you.
That's easier for me.
Wow.
In fact, Joe spent over 2 hours doing 13,410 keepy-uppies. But as you can see from his video, once he's finished and there's no ball, walking for him is harder. Joe's also done the London Marathon, 26.3 miles, 11 hours of keepy-uppies. Walking football focuses on balance, muscle strength and coordination while building mental well-being.
But actually, having a condition like Parkinson's has brought me a lot of joy in many ways, and it can be a catalyst for something incredible to happen, like the walking football that's happened to me. I look forward to a future of what's possible rather than what isn't possible, and look forward to the future I have and try to reframe that every day.
Fiona Lambden, BBC News.
Well, Caroline Rassell, Chief Executive of Parkinson's UK, is here on the sofa with us this morning. Morning, Caroline.
Morning, Sally.
So can you explain why something like walking football is so good for people who are living with a diagnosis of Parkinson's?
So Parkinson's has many symptoms, and one of them is around rigidity. Another one is around people who've got a tremor. And then some people really do struggle with their mental health and well-being. Now, you asked me a really simple question, and I've given you quite a few little tips as to the answer, because walking football can help with all of those. It helps with muscle control. It helps with really balance, but more importantly, and something that is really important to everyone now, is it helps with people's mental health and well-being. So being part of a team is always a great thing, and certainly with walking football, there's a huge amount of camaraderie and friendship. So it helps with people's physical and mental health and well-being.
And also, there was a sense years ago, wasn't there, when somebody got a diagnosis of Parkinson's, that it was the worst news, and it would also be a very isolating diagnosis. And I guess this is the opposite of that.
Absolutely. I mean, it was only a few years ago when people were diagnosed, they were told to sit still. And actually now we're saying completely the opposite. So we are encouraging people to do exercise. A little bit is good, more is better. 2.5 hours a week would be ideal. It would be ideal for everyone, whether you've got Parkinson's or not. But certainly what we've seen is not only the benefits for people's physical health, so better bone health as well, because that's very important for people with Parkinson's. But also, as you say, Sally, the social isolation is a really big issue. When you've got a condition where there is a physical symptom, sometimes people are really frightened about going out, about how people will react to them. But when you play sport, actually, it's a great leveller. So I just would recommend to everyone, even if you don't want to do a team sport, get out and be active.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask, actually. Is it just football, or is it any kind of activity?
Oh, so the range of activities currently that certainly Parkinson's UK support is huge, and they are activities that you probably wouldn't think of for people with Parkinson's. So boxing is really, really popular, and again, that's all about balance and coordination. Table tennis, we're now looking at paddleboarding, we're looking, believe it or not, at skateboarding. So there's a whole variety. And then there are things like Tai Chi, yoga, seated exercise. You can do exercise virtually as well as outside in the open air. So there's just such a huge range. And if people are interested, I'd recommend they go onto the Parkinson's UK website, and there's an activity finder, and they can find out whatever there is locally for them.
And what is the science behind it? How does it help? I know we've talked about, it might help with symptoms, but does it help at a deeper level?
The truth is we don't know, but what we're keen to do is more research. So a lot of the people who are now stepping forward and taking part in physical activity, we're actually approaching them to be part of some of our research projects, working with some of our great physios to actually work out what is it that is making people be able to cope better with their symptoms when they are taking exercise. And we believe, and there is research now that's just started, to see whether actually it can slow the progression of the condition. And that's marvellous.
Are we any closer to a cure for this condition?
So there are lots and lots of different bits of research that are happening at the moment. We need to understand why people get Parkinson's. That's the killer question. And at the moment, we don't really know why people get Parkinson's. But irrespective of that, we are looking at different ways that we can treat the symptoms of Parkinson's. And certainly Parkinson's UK does invest a considerable amount in looking at all of the different symptoms and how we can mitigate them.
There was an incredible moment at the weekend, wasn't there, at Glastonbury, when the actor Michael J. Fox joined Coldplay on stage to play guitar during their song Fix You. I cried my eyes out. It was just the most gorgeous thing. How important is it that people who have this diagnosis, I know he is in a very particular situation because he's so famous, but that they go out and live their life, and that perhaps people who are diagnosed with Parkinson's see someone like Michael J. Fox keeping going?
Or see people like Annie and Joe on the film. They don't let their Parkinson's define them. This is such a resilient community, and the community is really, really keen to ensure that they are welcomed by people when they interact with different elements of the community. So, yes, they are determined to ensure that they can live their best life, and actually being active is a great way of doing that.
Caroline, so good to talk to you. Thank you for coming in this morning. Caroline Rassell there, Chief Executive of Parkinson's UK. Thank you.
Thank you.